dynasty, you're talking Debbie. You know my guys is never shook. It's time to sit down and let the Degens cook. That's right. You know they coming through and getting heavy. It's time to talk some dynasty and talk some Debbie. My guys is never shook. Time to sit down and let the Degens cook. Ow!
What's up, my Degens? How we doing? I am Nerdboy Takes. We are looking for buried treasure today. So we are going to be diving deep into Dynasty Leagues. Don't get this confused with Player Profiler Johnny Tuma's show. We are a late night show. Johnny Tuma is a daytime show. Johnny is very by the books. We can swear on this pod. So, as I would do this normally, I want to introduce my guests. Alex, start off with your favorite swear word. You can just whatever swear word you want to do.
Oh, we got to go all in. Fuck it, right? Like, come on.
Fuck it.
Yeah, let's go.
Yes, buddy. Oh man. Yeah. So introduce yourself, man. Like, tell us a little bit about what you do, because I could do it myself, but I always want to hear from the content creators that I have on here.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me on. I'm, getting ready. I was just talking to you before the show, kind of ramping things up, getting into redraft season. Training camp about a month away, season's coming along. But you can find all my stuff at yardsperfantasy.com. That's my website. Articles, rankings, we got the podcast feed, we got the YouTube channel, which is pretty much like our main focus at this point. We're trying to build up the YouTube channel. Dynasty content, redraft content, we got a little bit of everything. We got our projections template this time of year. People are starting to, want to build their own projections, and a lot of people don't know how to do it. So you can just find our already pre-made, ready to go template. You just hit the button and it's ready to go, which is pretty cool. That's a really popular a product that we have on our website this time of year.
Yeah, I think everyone wants projections. People want to trust other people's processes, and it's a lot easier that way. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't know how to I guess get that going, and people understand projections. You can drop like warp, and you can hit them with different types of analytics, but projections are pretty straightforward, and people like a final number attached to a player's value. They want to see some numbers that they can equate to wins in fantasy. I think that's what people get so excited about in Dynasty, is when they see the actual projections drop on Sleeper, when they're like, oh, okay, I can see my final, you know what I mean? They can see like what their fruits of labor have, I guess, developed, like all of the time and trades and everything. And it's, it's instant gratification is what I call it. So,
I know it means nothing at this point, but I'm already looking at my week 1 matchups on Sleeper, and am I projected to win this one, or,
Yeah. I mean, that's really what it is. It's like the dopamine, it's like okay. I mean, it's great tools, man. And I love what you guys do over there. Just before we get started, before we get into it, let's talk a little icebreaker. So we always do this on the show. I always introduce the guest, and then we talk about what their favorite TV show is. So tell everybody what your favorite TV show is, and then drop the character from that show that you'd most want to be in fantasy league with.
All right. So this is the question on the show sheet that I had the hardest time with, because I'm not actually a big TV show guy, but I got to go with a classic, The Office. Who doesn't watch that show at one point or another? And I want to play fantasy football with Kevin Malone in the accounting section there.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, he's into sports. I mean, he's made that known, a couple of times during the show. I could see him trying to talk trash, horribly, which, I mean, he'd get emotional about his team. He'd probably have some crazy team name. I don't even know where to begin with that. Probably have 69 in it somewhere. But he's unpredictable, but he'd be super committed to that team. He's going to be making crazy trades. He's going to obsess over like the stats. He's just going to say some wild shit in the chat for sure.
Dude, so you're, I know that you don't watch TV often, but what was the trade in The Office that everyone Do you know how like the guys had the fantasy league and there was a trade that like shook it up? Like it was like, I mean, there everyone was like, "Oh my god, this trade went through," and they were like showing each other their phones and stuff. Do you recall this? Do you remember this,
Don't. It's been.
dude?
I'll be honest. It's my favorite TV show, but it's been a year or a couple of years since I last watched it. I don't
If
remember.
if anybody's in the chat and can look up the trade that happened in the fantasy league in The Office, I would appreciate you a lot. Why does this dude want you to say Duval? I don't think he. Are
Oh,
you saying that he looks like?
Sam.
Are you,
Sam thinks he claims I look like Liam Cohen.
dude? Not even
I
close,
don't see it.
man. Not
Although
even close.
although he's mentioned that to me before, and for a second, I'm like, you know what? I do see it a little bit. You know,
So,
I got kind of the
fun,
awkwardness going on. You know, for sure.
fun fact about Liam Cohen: I went to college with Liam Cohen. I actually knew
Really?
him. Yeah, we both went to UMass at the same time, and I used to go to the games. And at the time, Victor Cruz was on the team, and it was like incredible. Like Liam Cohen was throwing touchdowns to Victor Cruz, and the team was actually fun to watch. People actually went to those games. Um, but yeah, he's super as awkward as you would think. Like, not that I was like friends with him or anything, but like I remember thinking about how awkward the like QB of a college team could be at a party. Like it just didn't fit. It didn't fit the aesthetics, like
Yeah.
of what you would expect. I was like, okay, this dude has zero aura. And okay, that was Daryl traded Sean Alexander for defense. I mean, at the time, Sean Alexander
There you go.
was incredible. Yeah. I mean, Sean Alexander was like a top 3 running back in the league. But all right, so we got that. Office, great show. I think it's, a lot of classics on this show. It's like the same 7 answers over and over again. Cause I mean, how many favorite shows can there be at this point?
Right.
Like there's not a lot of curveballs when it comes to this question. I might have to change it up eventually, but all right, dude, tell me how you started your brand. How yards per just pop off? Like, how did you just decide, okay, because I always respect people for doing their own brands, and it's obviously it's really saturated, but there's also brands that don't last. We talked about it backstage where these brands will definitely pop up, but like for them to stay and really like consistently produce, it's pretty rare. It's tough because everyone has a podcast, and to be able to sustain listeners and to really kind of build it up, it's very difficult. It's tough. It's a full-time job. So tell everybody how you really got started on yards per.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before I started yards per, I was doing some little stuff for some other places, a little bit, articles and stuff, news blurbs, stuff like that. But I wanted to start my own thing. I don't know. I just always wanted to do that. Just thought it would be fun to do my own thing, build my own thing. And honestly, it gave me like a place to kind of experiment and fail at things, on my own brand rather than, being on somebody else's, YouTube channel or website or whatever. I wanted to eventually start like podcasting and doing video content. I knew I'd be absolutely terrible at it. So doing it on my own just gave me that chance to, do some different things, grow, get better. And I was right. I was really bad for a long time. And I mean, there's some people in my audience who might think I still am. I don't know. But yeah, it was a lot about just, trying different things on my own. And like, I never would have come on and done a YouTube video or YouTube show, for somebody else's brand. Because like I said, I knew I would have been horrible and I would have embarrassed myself. And them as well. So, but it is hard to sustain and keep it going because, like you said, it is almost like a full-time job. When I have free time, this is what I do. I'm writing articles. I'm, creating video content, editing videos. Making graphics, and then all the behind-the-scenes stuff at the website as well. The behind-the-scenes. We have, little issues here and there that need to be fixed. I'm the guy who's going to fix it. But that's also kind of what I enjoy doing too. So, Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun starting your own brand, man. And it is tiresome for sure. You know, like I think that the group that you have with you is really what keeps you going. You know, like if you have certain guys that are in your corner, you know, like Dane, I know Dane, you're in the chat right now. I appreciate you so much, man. I appreciate the whole dynasty team in general. You know, like all you guys are killing it over there. But there's certain guys that are with you day one, and they really kind of hold you down, and they do a lot for you behind the scenes that they might not get credit for. And it might just be, you know, just keeping you going and keeping you motivated. Like that's a whole different animal, because sometimes when the weather's nice and you're busy with like your actual day job, do you really want to make content, man? Like, do you really want to like go sit at your computer and look up, you know, little clips of, I don't know, third round running backs that you think could hit possibly, you know, like they might have a glimmer of a chance of making it. And you're sitting there for 4 hours editing a video, and you're like, oh, you know, it's tough, man. The grind, you only see the finished product out there. So it's like everything behind the scenes, everything that you do, the thumbnails, the editing, you know, if you mess around with whatever you do, if you do video work, it's, dude, finding like an actual way to edit and clip videos and make shorts. It's all, you know, you discover that on your own. You know, nobody's going to hold your hand and help you figure that out. You're pretty much trial and error. And if you look at like my old, you know, shorts, I laugh I can't even look at them.
I cringe when I look back at my old stuff. Absolutely cringe so hard.
Brutal, like the old graphics, old everything. Like, I'm not by any means a graphic designer, but like night and day from 2 years ago when I first started doing it, and for sure.
Yeah, Canva is a hero for me for sure.
Yeah, Canva. I use InShot. Shout out to InShot. I use a couple different apps. It depends on. I actually start on Canva and then I move to InShot, and then I'll move it back to Canva. It's crazy, but I love Canva's. I don't know. I guess I like their overlook. They have better options as far as what you can do for overlays and stuff. Like this overlay is a Canva, and then, you know, the graphics are from InShot. So
yeah,
I mean, it's mix and match.
very user friendly. Any idiot like me can figure it out.
Well, I don't think you're an idiot by any means, because I don't think I would want to talk ball with you if I thought you were an idiot. So
wait till you get to my fantasy takes. Might change your mind.
Oh shit. Well, we're about to right now. So as I alluded to before, we are talking about treasure hunting. We're talking about guys that possibly were thrown away in dynasty leagues. You know, like we're not going as deep as like Treylon Burks by any means, but we're talking about guys that have shown. Wait, are we talking about Treylon Burks? Maybe we are. I don't even know your guys. But we're talking about guys that, you know, maybe people are tired of having on their roster, or maybe they're just guys that are super undervalued or haven't really hit yet. You know, like there's so many guys, especially at the tight end position, at the running back position, they revive their careers. They revive value all day. You know, like we're talking about Jordan Mason last year. Like actually everybody on San Francisco last year was kind of a throwaway, was like viewed as undervalued, and they all hit at some point. You know, certain guys like Zach Charbonnet, everybody, not that they were super thrown away by any means, but never really like viewed as somebody that was going to probably carry your fantasy team to a degree at some point in the season last year. Right. But, you know, to kick it off, I'm going to go with a guy that probably isn't going to give you a massive ceiling by any means, isn't somebody that's going to completely carry your fantasy team, but I think could probably offer up a safer floor than a lot of people are predicting. And that's Dyami Brown out of Jacksonville. So speaking of Duval, speaking of Liam Cohen, I guess we saw a little bit of what Brown could do last year. We saw especially the way that Jaden Daniels sprinkled the ball around, that he could essentially make wide receivers that weren't viewed as high-end guys. And it was Olamide Zaccheaus, and all these guys were actually seeing some value in a good offensive scheme. And I think that Dyami Brown's skill set was still there. I think that he was just in jail essentially when it came to his usage, when we're talking about somebody that has the skill set. He's good off the line. I think he's got some good speed. He offers that home run option for an offense that might be lacking it. And I think that he's being overlooked because Travis Hunter got drafted there. I think he was a sexier option when it was just BTJ and De'Ami Brown and possibly, being that second option in an offense that, could be humming and maybe humming. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot riding on Boy Wonder there, that I don't know. How do you feel about the Jacksonville Jaguars in general? Let's start there. Like, how do you feel about this team's outlook next year?
Overall, I think it's got to be an ascending offense, right? I mean, it's with the new offensive coordinator, or head coach, adding Travis Hunter, bringing in, a second year Brian Thomas Jr. I believe it's going to be better. I think we'll see, the backfield will be better. We got that explosive element with Bashal Tutin coming in. We'll see if Travis Etienne can regain his magic from a couple of years ago. It's going to be better. It's going to be a better offense. I don't think anybody would deny that. But we still have Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. I've never been the biggest Trevor Lawrence believer. Look back at last year. You could argue that Mac Jones quarterbacked that offense better than Trevor Lawrence did.
I think I've said that a couple times, actually. We didn't really see a full breakout of Brian Thomas Jr. until Mac Jones was full in, like game 2, game 3 of Mac Jones, where he was comfortable behind that offensive line. That was really when Brian Thomas Jr. ascended into the asset that we're viewing him as right now. Because, he was a little inconsistent. He was booming, but it was like, like how you would expect any guy, like the Brandon Ayuk rookie year kind of guy, like still valuable, but like not consistently providing a high ceiling game, Mac Jones was peppering targets, was doing it. Yeah. So I think that, if we see Trevor Lawrence even he's got to be healthy, first of all. And then he's got to at least take a little step forward. And that is more about his processing and his release and the way that he sees the field, because he looks like he has really bad vision at times. But I think to counterpoint that, I think that this offense could elevate him, like he could be a Jared Goff, like he could be a Brock Purdy. Like, I think that you're talking about guys that have enough skill to get the ball out. All he has to do is get the ball out of his hands. I think that we're talking about an offense that at this point, you would assume would have 1 or 2 guys open every play. I think he just needs to see the field. He needs to understand, who is open and how these plays are broken down. Because I don't know if you see this, but it looks like he doesn't even know the playbook sometimes. It looks like he doesn't even know, what plays are being called and where people are supposed to be on the field.
Yeah, he definitely needs a significant step forward. If it's going to ever happen, this is going to be the year. He's got no more excuses. He's got the weapons. He's got the competent coaching staff. I think, the last couple of years with Doug Peterson is kind of, just not the revolutionary, not the evolved offense that we see in today's NFL that Liam Cohen can bring to this team. He's kind of stuck in that, 2010, 2015 offense. He was running back, he was the Chiefs offensive coordinator and he was head coach in Philadelphia. Things that worked back then, he didn't evolve that offense with the creativity that we're seeing with some of these other offenses around the league. And I think that is a potential positive for Trevor Lawrence moving into 2025 with the new offense, with the weapons. Can we get more creative in that offense with Trevor Lawrence? He's in year 5. There's no more excuses. Everything is lined up for him to have a good year. If it doesn't happen this year, the Jaguars might have to start looking at potential backup plans at quarterback.
Yeah, and it's tough to even project these guys. Like, I think I have De'Ami Brown as, like, I'm not going to put him up as super productive just because I think the cap is there with somebody that, like Trevor Lawrence, that likely can't provide the ceiling of 3 guys in an offense. And we're even talking about Brenton Strange over there too, right, that will get a few targets and supposedly, I mean, I think I think that he'll actually have a pretty decent season. Especially with the dump offs and the little short passes that he's probably going to be forced into sometimes. But I think De'Ami Brown could be a flex at times. I think that we're talking about a guy that's going to be boom or bust, but he's free. These guys that we're talking about today are free. I'm more than willing to take a stab at him having those boom games. I think that we're talking about possibly like the ceiling of a Darnell Mooney or somebody that, not necessarily the style of play, but somebody that will consistently have big plays, like somebody that you can get way back in the 17th, 18th round of a startup. And I think you're going to start him a few games in the year. You think you're going to start him, I think he's probably going to have some consistency, and especially if there's any injuries in that offense, or if Trevor Lawrence does take a step forward. I think we've been waiting for this for how long has it been in the league? 5 years? It's been 5 years, right?
Year 5 breakout.
Oh, it feels nauseating, dude. Like to even say this stuff, but like we are talking about somebody that definitely is better than what we've seen. I think that we finally saw him with a little more consistency last year. And I want to buy into that. I think they went and got this guy. They went and found him, and they thought that he's going to be a good complement to the guys that they already have. So that is my first deep dive. These guys aren't going to be sexy by any means, but
they paid him what, 10 million?
10 million. Yeah. Kind of a show me year, kind of like a let's see what you can do. I think that, the idea that he could probably have about 6 or 7 touchdowns and 500 to 600 yards wouldn't be like out of the realm of the possibility there. He got 300 yards on 30 catches last year. That was essentially in 4 games, like the way that he finished the season last year. It was really, I think that all of his production, the way that he ended the year, really made me want to believe that he took a step forward in his progression too. So, hit me with a guy that you're into, man. Let's swap guys here back and forth a little bit. Tell me the guy that you want to deep dive into when you want to pluck off the waiver or possibly get super late in a startup.
Yeah, so I'm going to look at a guy who was a little underwhelming as a rookie last year, and that's Jalen Wright with the Dolphins. He's RB53 in Dynasty ADP right now. He was behind Achane and Mostert, but Mostert is gone. Mostert is now in Vegas. He's a Raider. That opens the door for Jalen Wright to be the RB2 in that backfield. Maybe he impresses in the summer. Maybe he becomes the 1B. The Dolphins have liked to use 2 running backs on offense during the Mike McDaniel era. So I think Jalen Wright could hold value even with a healthy Achane if things align right for his role. I remember what Mostert did when he was sharing a backfield with Achane back in 2023. He had 1,000 yards, 21 touchdowns. He's the RB4 in fantasy points per game. I'm not expecting that from Jalen Wright, but it shows us that we can get 2 running backs having success in that backfield in this offense if things align properly. And Jalen Wright doesn't need a ton of touches to return value given like his home run hitting ability. It's a guy who ran a 4.38 40th at the NFL Combine last year. And while his role was extremely limited as a rookie, he was still efficient with some of his limited opportunities. According to PFF, he was top 20 in both yards after contact per attempt as well as missed tackles forced per attempt, which surprised me when I saw those numbers. But the Dolphins, they somewhat barely addressed the running back position this offseason after losing Mostert. They added Alexander Mattison in free agency. They drafted Ollie Gordon, but that wasn't until the 6th round. My guess is one of those guys probably makes the team as like the RB3 and like the designated between the tackles, bruiser, limited situations type of running back, which does, I think, still keep the door open for Jalen Wright to have a significant role as the 1B or the 2 in that offense. I liked him last year coming out of Tennessee. Nothing has really happened for him to change that. We knew he was in a crowded backfield last year. That has opened up, and he can take a significant role in the second season, especially we get the team, trying to keep the ball out of Tua's hands as much as they can. I think they're losing a lot of confidence in him. We heard Mike McDaniel, I think just a couple of weeks ago, saying they want to get the ball out of his hands even quicker than he already does. They just don't trust him, which could mean we get more carries out of that backfield, more opportunities for the running backs alongside Devon Achane. I think Jalen Wright can be that high-end handcuff. Maybe could emerge as a guy you can flex even with a healthy Achane.
Yeah, I like that call. I like that call a lot because I think that I have the Dolphins regressing this year. I have them not being as efficient as an offense in general. I think that, Tyreek is taking a little step back. I don't know if he's going to be on the team for the entire year, especially if they start losing at the beginning of the season. I can't imagine they're not going to try to get value for Tyreek before they lose him in general.
Yeah.
I think that the loss of Tyreek, the way that goes, they're going to have to rely on the backfields more and more. Waddle isn't that guy. Waddle is a very good complementary wide receiver. I don't think that, Tyreek leaving means Waddle gets a massive boost in the arm. I think that it means the backfield gets a massive boost. I think that the loss of Tyreek would probably equate to Jalen Wright having standalone value. As it stands, I could see Jalen Wright working in with Achane, but I could see these guys are so similar in builds and so similar in the way that they play the game. They are speed guys. They are quick jump cut guys. They do have that agility. They're good offline. And I think that if they wanted to work these two guys, it's really good, but he likes to do a thunder and lightning situation most of the time. He does, like Mostert wasn't like a bruiser by any means, but I think Mostert plays bigger than his size. Like, I don't know if you agree with that. Like he's not like a bruiser by any means, but he's somebody that, like, compared to Achane, like completely different. Sure. Yeah. Like completely different style of running, like, and I don't know if Ollie Gordon or Madison offers that. Dude, if we got the Ollie Gordon from 2.5 years ago, I wouldn't even have this conversation with you. I think that if he was somebody that didn't completely change after that injury, it's just like, it's kind of like a Zach Evans situation, like somebody that I was so in on. Like, does that ring a bell to you? Does that?
I remember Evans. Never was on that train.
Oh, see, I was very much on that train. Like, I think I was in on him way too hard, especially after, I guess, what it was his junior year. When did he come out? His junior year? I think it was like his sophomore year, actually. I don't know. Ole Miss. I fall in love with Ole Miss running backs in general, dude. I do. Like it's really the schools for me. It's like I always draft a tight end from Penn State. I always draft the running back from Ole Miss, man. I don't know what it is. They churn him out, dude.
They brought him in to be the guy, and then he lost his job like 3 weeks into the season to Quinshon Judkins as a freshman.
I know. Yeah, and
that was the red flag.
Everyone's like he's cooked, and then I was like, wait, Quinshon's really good though, but. Yeah, that should have been the massive red flag for me too, man. But I hold on hope, dude. I had the hopium really hard with him. But yeah, excuse me. Jalen Wright, I think, is exactly what this offense wants. I think this is exactly how they want to run it.
Speed.
That's how they run with speed and they run with motion. They need guys that can work within motion. They need guys that can work off the line and make the defense move before the ball snap. I think Jalen Wright does that. Achane does that. Tyreek Hill does that. Waddle even does that to an extent. All these guys are twitchy. They're quick on the line. So I would love to see them, just because I think that their quarterback's not be getting the ball out soon enough, especially with Tyreek not getting the separation that he used to get. Even if you lose like a second of speed, it goes so far when it comes to separation, especially when he doesn't do a lot besides speed. I can't say that Tyreek doesn't have a lot to his game, but like when the speed goes on these guys, it's tough, man. Yeah. You can see it. They don't have that separation. They don't have the ability to catch the ball in motion. Because it really is the timing of everything gets faded out, and a second does matter. And it's crazy to say that, but it does. And it's just bound to happen. How old is Tyreek? 29?
He might have hit that 30. He might have hit 30.
He might be 30.
He might
Yeah.
be 30.
These guys hit like a massive wall. And it comes out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like this, we see Tyreek actually show some signs, but like most of the time it's like this guy has a 1,000-yard season and then boom, there it is. You know, like they're all of a sudden just not valuable anymore. I'm not going to say Tyreek's cooked, but I'm not expecting, 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns. Like I think that we're looking at a guy that might see 800 yards this year.
Yeah, those are top 5 seasons for him. I think those are in the rearview mirror at this point.
Yeah. So I'm in the outside thinking in where I think if this offense struggles, Wright sees more playing time. I think this offense does well. Wright might not see the field that often. I think that the Dolphins need to struggle and they're going to look to revamp the offense and they're going to look to like give it a shot in the arm. And I think Wright could be that shot in the arm.
Yeah. And I think it's very likely that they do struggle. And the way they use A-Chain in the passing game, they could get those guys on the field at the same time once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, that's the extension of, like I said, the passing game is like, I think that they're not going to be throwing the deep balls. They want to not have Tua concussed. I think that he really struggles with protecting himself on deep balls. When he's stepping back and he does feel pressure, I think the idea to keep him on the field and ultimately to keep them in games is probably not a lot of step backs, like not a lot of, waiting on receivers to get open. I think it's going to be quick release. He's working, behind the line of scrimmage or just kind of like within 10 yards most of the time.
I think that's more in his game anyway. He's get the ball out quick. That's his thing. That's where he'll be at his best.
Yeah. Let's move it on. So one of my guys, I'm talking about Roschon Johnson out of Chicago. And I see you shaking your head a little bit. I think you're probably in on this a little bit with me. I think that we are looking at a offense that has to run with 2 running backs. Like this is really the Ben Johnson way. And this is really how he's developed his bread and butter when it comes to offensive stability is the running game. And we're talking about Swift, who has shown he can't take more than 15 to 20 carries a game. If you give Swift 20 carries a game, he's going to be off the field after game 3. I think that the durability, Ben Johnson knows it. Swift knows it. Everybody knows it. You have to limit it. I mean, Swift revived his stuff behind the best offensive line in the NFL. He had that 1 year in Philly where he showed out. And I think that Philly's shown you that anybody could run behind that offensive line and revive their career. Well, I mean, how much did who was it that Miles man, why can't I remember? Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders was back there and he got a 3-year contract, I think, after that. That dude, he should be like paying that offensive line. Everybody on that offensive line should get part of that contract. The fact that he got paid after that and did what he did. Nothing, dude. And it's like Swift owes a lot to that. I think that Swift came in last year and he is what he is, but Ben Johnson, I don't think Ben Johnson likes Swift. I think that this was like kind of a tough look because he got rid of Swift.
Yes.
At the beginning when he was in Detroit.
He was part of that coaching staff that gave up on him before his rookie contract even ended.
Remember that? Like the games would happen and it was like Cam Akers. Like he was just getting 1 carry, 2 carries.
Yep.
Like Swift was viewed as like a top 5 dynasty running back that year. Like easily, you know what I mean? Like everyone was like, okay, like in on Swift, he was like a 2nd round value pick. And people thought that he was an easy pick in that section. But, he had the couple games where he didn't see the field and everyone's like, is Swift injured? And he wasn't. They just didn't care to give him the ball at all. Yeah. And I think everyone thinks that Swift is going to be the bell cow. Swift isn't built to be a bell cow. Swift is not getting more than 10 to 12 carries a game, and everyone wants to be on. I mean, who's on that team right now? Kyle Managi. What is that? I can't even remember how to say
I think it's
Manangai. Is that his
Manunga.
last name?
I don't know. That's how I said it.
That seems right to me. Yeah, Roshan just seems like such a juicy pick right now. And I think that people can point at his efficiency, but he is a big-bodied guy. He's somebody that could run between tackles. I think he offers something that nobody has on that team. I think that the skill set that he has is something they're going to really try to take advantage of, because people figure out Swift fast, like they understand like the outside running can only get you so far. They're going to have to mix in some inside running there. They're going to have to mix in somebody that can, like I said, run between the tackles, that can work goal line and stuff, like you can only get cute and do the dump offs and the passes and the shovel passes to Swift so many times before that defense is going to sniff you out and tackle them every time, sometimes for a loss. It's like, I think they need somebody to be a bruiser. They need somebody that could be that 1B. And I think Roshan Johnson is absolutely that guy.
Yeah. Ben Johnson, I mean, he's run the best, 2 running back offense in the league the last couple of years with Jahmyr Gibbs and Dave Montgomery. I think it's just natural to believe that he's going to want to come in and recreate the Jahmyr Gibbs, Dave Montgomery dynamic with DeAndre Swift in their Gibbs role and Johnson in the Dave Montgomery role, which means we're going to get value from both of these guys. You talked about the improved offensive line. We're going to get hopefully a second-year leap from Caleb Williams, so it's going to be an improved offense. There's going to be more scoring opportunities for everybody in that offense, including the big-bodied Roshan Johnson. Who are you going to in that backfield? Who are you going to give the goal line carries to? Is you going to give it to Swift or are you going to give it to Roshan Johnson? You're probably going to give it to Roshan Johnson. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for him to score in that offense. Just everything is looking up for Roshan Johnson. I've loved him since he's come out of Texas. When you told me what we're going to do for this show, the first guy who came to mind was Roshan Johnson. Then I opened up the show sheet and saw that you claimed him, and I was very, very heartbroken because that was going to be the guy I was going to talk about. You're on mute.
I was looking at Roshan's stats from last year. I'm really just like kind of, I had to quiet myself because it doesn't look good, and I don't want to sigh on camera, but also like, I think we are, like I said, we're going for the guys that don't look good, that everyone is buying up Swift right now. And I'm not a believer. I think that Swift might see boosted value for a short-term period of time, but like, no, I think that you can wait on this backfield and go get Roshan Johnson.
Yeah, if you look at Roshan last year, I mean, he came in, I think he had a toe injury that kept him out early in the season from the preseason. He suffered his second concussion during the season, and he was with probably one of the worst, least competent offensive coaching staffs in the league. There's a lot of excuses you could make for Roshan Johnson to think that, all right, we can put that in the past. We can look forward to 2025. We're finally going to get the breakout we've been waiting for 3 years. This is the year. It's going to happen.
Yeah, and it's like this offense is going to be humming, right? Like I think that everyone has this offense to have that really boost year. A lot of people are calling it like, this is going to be the Commanders type of season where, this offense was fine last year. You know what I mean? Like they were okay last year. They did have some guys that produced for sure, but the step forward that the Commanders took this year, I think a lot of analysts are kind of seeing Chicago as a can't miss type of situation for Caleb Williams. I'm not in that boat. I'm not going to say, Caleb Williams can't fail in the situation. But it's going to take a lot for fantasy to not be happening in this team. You know what I mean? Like it's going to take a lot for numbers not to come up.
If that offense doesn't take a significant step forward this year, it's Ben Johnson. He's the biggest fraud we've ever seen. And Caleb Johnson is one of the biggest busts over the last 10 years. Yeah,
I mean, it's incredible. Like we're talking about an offense that has I mean, if you just take like two of these wide receivers, you could say DJ Moore and um, I mean Burden are probably better than a lot of the two set wide receivers on many teams in the league. But then if you put Loveland in there and then you know, Roma Dunze's in there, and it's like collectively the best offense in the NFL. Like when you're talking about depth, when you're talking about like a lot of teams would love to have Cole Kmet as their one on their team as in tight end position. Like I think like the Patriots would love it. You know, like there's who has, I mean, the Commanders would probably actually, I don't know, dude. Ertz still got some juice. And then we're talking about our young gun that I probably want to throw on the sheet at some point. But maybe if we have time, we can talk about the backup tight end over there and the Commanders. Yeah, there's so many weapons. And I think that there's going to be a lot of room for that backfield to produce at a high level because they're going to see a lot of goal line stuff, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Before we get to your next guy, we're going to kick it over to the Podfather. We're going to talk about the Breakout Finder tool that we have over on Player Profiler, and then we'll get right back.
Oh, the Breakout Finder is live. That's right. A lot of breakout models out there, but we started it all. The best and brightest minds coming up with the definitive breakout probabilities for running backs, wide receivers in this rookie class. It's $5 to download the wide receiver breakouts, the running back breakouts, but also proprietary stats available only on the Breakout Finder, including dynamic score for wide receivers, teammate score, level of competition. You can access the full stat database, plus many advanced metrics from Player Profiler, all there, right there on your phone, in the App Store, on Google Play, and that 2025 class is live.
Dude, just the intro to this video is wild.
Oh, the Breakout Finder is live. That's right.
Like, my man is a wild
Nobody does it better. Nobody does it better.
But the Breakout Finder is a great tool, man. And we're talking about breakouts, and we're talking about guys that are probably on this tool that you could use. If you go over to the playerprofiler.com and use our promo code DEGEN, that's DEGEN, you can get up to $50 off a deposit on there. So it's a great thing, great tool. And there's many other tools on there that you can use, and you can get money off using our code. So I don't see why you don't go do it. Let's keep it going, man. So guys that we've covered so far: Diame Brown, Jalen Wright, and then we just talked about Roshan Johnson. Who's next for you?
I'm gonna go the wide receiver position. We're gonna go to Elijah Moore.
Oh my God, dude.
Oh no, I don't know if that's a good or a bad. Oh my God.
Oh, it gives me heartburn, man. I think when Elijah Moore broke out, I did something so silly, dude. Like his rookie year. After his rookie year, I think I traded the 107 for him. You know, like I think I traded. What year was he drafted? Was he a 2019 kid?
He was 21. I believe it's Elijah Moore?
Yeah.
No.
Elijah Moore
was like 21. Yeah, 2021 was rookie year.
Okay. I got to look back on this trade, dude. It was the worst trade I think I've made in ever.
I remember bragging to my friends, my league mates in other leagues. I traded after his rookie season. I traded him for the 206. I traded the 206 for him, and I was like,
206.
I got the steal of a lifetime. I was so excited, and then just
206 is not the. I mean, I did the 107, and I can't remember what player.
Brutal, yeah.
I honestly, I think it was Chris Olave, or it might have been Jahan Dotson. Honestly, I think that it was when Dotson was really being drafted high up there as well. I mean, either way, that's a miss for everybody. That draft class after the 108, 107, 108 is pretty awful. I'm looking at it right now, and it's like Sky Moore's in there, Christian Watson, Damian Pierce, Rashad White, John Mechie was in there, Kenny Pickett was in there. Isaiah Spiller, Trey McBride was the biggest value in this draft by far. Like by far, he was in like the 209, 210 range. Yeah, it's just an ugly draft outside of the top five guys, because it was just Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, and then I guess Chris Olave, and that was the entire draft for the first round. Anything after, so it really wasn't a bad. All right, tell me why Elijah Moore.
He was worth the 107 at that point. I don't think that was horrible at all. I
couldn't. I remember doing it and thinking I traded him for I think it was for Olave. So when Olave was just killing it, and then Elijah Moore was not by any means killing it. That was okay. I really, I overlooked, but honestly, there was nothing to overlook when Elijah Moore hit on the Jets, and we were like, okay, he's doing this with nobody on the team. He's doing this he was showing out as a true breakout rookie year. And he kind of broke everything that we knew about dynasty at that time, because it was there's not a lot of guys that break out rookie years and then just, fall into the abyss like that.
Yeah. I mean, he's a former second round pick. Like you said, he flashed as a rookie, got himself traded to the Browns, unfortunately. But he had over 100 targets in both 2023 and 2024. Last year, he had career high 61 receptions. He was third on the team behind Njoku and Jerry Jeudy. But there's no doubt that he's got talent. He's got 4.35 speed. He's good with the ball in his hands. He's a really good route runner, excellent against man coverage. And he's versatile enough, I think, to line up out wide, line up in the slot. He can move all over the formation. He just had to deal with a lot of really bad quarterback play. But his quarterbacks have been, Zach Wilson, Dorian Thompson-Robinson at times, Bailey Zappi, I think he had for a couple of games, Jameis Winston, Deshaun Watson. And the combined passer ratings for the quarterbacks over the years that have quarterbacked the teams that Elijah Moore has been on have just been an absolute joke. So 2021 is rookie year. All the Jets quarterbacks combined for a 76 quarterback rating. In 2022 is 75. Wasn't any better with the Browns, 73.7 in 2023, 71 in 2024. So now, not only is he getting a quarterback upgrade in Buffalo, he's getting one of the best quarterbacks in the game, in the reigning NFL MVP with Josh Allen. So this is easily the best situation of his career. And there's a lot of quality receivers in the offense, but there's no alpha or true number one wide receivers. Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Josh Palmer, Curtis Samuel. There's a real chance that a 25-year-old in his prime, former second-round pick can emerge as a steady target earner in that offense. And if he does, if he becomes, even the wide receiver 3 in the Josh Allen offense, we could get a really good year from Elijah Moore. There's already been, some hype from him, from beat writers, getting praise at OTAs for his route running and his separation. I know it's, no pads are on or anything, but it's OTAs. But, some positive momentum for Elijah Moore. If he can build chemistry with Josh Allen, he can become a top 3 receiver in that offense. We could potentially get a top 36 fantasy season from Elijah Moore. He's done it once before. Everything is set up for him to have the best chance he'll ever have to do it again. I'm going to give it one more year for Elijah Moore.
Hell yeah, dude. I mean, I'm sold. I think that I'm sold based off of that right there. I think, you can go into Elijah Moore's career and absolutely he is in the best situation he's ever been in, by far. Oh, yeah. And there's no doubt that the Buffalo offense is hungry for anybody. I think that Buffalo fans are astounded this is all they got in the offseason. It's they've been dying to get Josh Allen, anybody. They need to give him their Tyreek, or, you know what I mean? The guy that is going to be the one, when Tom Brady got Randy Moss, and it was okay, he's going to come bring you the promise. Not that Randy Moss needed to do anything for Tom Brady at that point, but you always want to see the top echelon have a guy, like Josh Allen had Diggs
Yeah,
for
Diggs,
X amount of years. He did. But at this point, it's like you can't replace Diggs with Keon Coleman. Khalil Shakir is very good. I like Khalil Shakir a lot as a player. I don't think that he's the one of any offense by any means. I think that he's a very good two. I think that he's somebody that you want. I think a one would elevate his game a lot because I don't think that he's built to be going against the cornerback one of a lot of teams, but against the two, I think that offense is humming. I think that we're looking at a very good, efficient offense when we haven't seen it in a while. So it's like, I would love to see Elijah Moore do something. And I think that you saw if Elijah Moore was on the wire at some point, the second he got onto Buffalo, he was not on the wire anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I think that there were dynasty leagues where he probably was out there somewhere. I don't think that he's available anywhere, but could you buy him for a fourth? Probably, you probably
just get him thrown into a deal.
You could,
nobody's going to not make
him
a trade because you're like, oh, can you throw in Elijah Moore?
I know. It's just like getting a third tacked on in a league trade where it's like, people don't think twice. They're not like, oh, I can't make this trade. He's definitely somebody you could throw in. He's somebody that you could buy straight up if there's roster cuts. And a lot of my dynasty leagues have small benches, so it's like these guys are traded for nothing at this point. You know what I mean? The guys that we're talking about today are super cheap. When roster cuts happen, you probably couldn't get them for nothing. They are across the board 4th round picks until the next guy I'm talking about, who is Theo Johnson. So Theo, I think, like I said before, I'm in on Penn State tight ends all day. I think it's a factory. They produce very good athletic tight ends, guys that are exactly what you want in a tight end. They have that athletic ability, but they're hard nosed. They can block. They see the field. They understand the game. Theo Johnson, I think, has the capability of being the second option on this Giants team. When it's all said and done, you want to target tight ends that are the first or second option on a team, because it's really hard to see consistency from a tight end as the third option on a team. It just doesn't equate to very good fantasy points. And that's why you see so many, such a top heavy position. Like a tight end position is like 7 guys, and then the rest is like a straight line. Like the difference between tight end 7 to tight end 15 is like 30, 40 points. Like it's not a dramatic drop at that point. I think Theo Johnson has the capability of being a top 8 tight end this year. And I think I think that he probably, if stays healthy, is that consistent target earner in this offense. We see an offense where it's like Slayton, like obviously Neighbors is gonna eat. He's gonna get 1,000 targets this year, but somebody else has to see some targets. Somebody else has to have a role in the offense. I think that Theo could easily be that safety blanket on the offense, especially when we see Russ Wilson to start the season. Russ is somebody that heavily favors a tight end position just because he doesn't have the arm like he used to. He likes to throw in the middle of the field a lot. He likes to do the dump offs. I don't know how long we're going to see Russ for. It could be Jackson Dart after week 6, week 7, but even then, I think he could establish himself and be.
Jameis?
What is it?
We could get Jameis a couple weeks.
I know, dude. If we could get a Jameis a couple weeks,
that'd be fun.
I don't know. I mean, we could. It could be anything at this point in time. I think that Dayball is. I don't know. He thinks that this team's good. I don't think this team's going to be very good, but I think they're going to have a better offense than a lot of people assume they will. I don't know. Are you in on Theo Johnson? Do you have it at take? Do you feel a certain way about this guy?
Yeah, I like him. I mean, he got on the field as a rookie before he got hurt. He played more than 80% of the snaps in 9 of his 12 games. And that's as a rookie. And he was a top 20 tight end in his last 4 games before that injury. He had 6 targets he averaged 6 targets per game over that stretch. He was tight end 6 in week 9. So he's flashed a little bit. He gave us just enough to kind of be like, all right, there's something here with this guy. Got a ton of athleticism. He's fast. He's explosive. He can be a big playmaker if he gets things going, and then offense, does outperform, the expectations. Like you said, they upgraded the quarterback position, but while they upgraded the quarterback position, they didn't add any pass catchers. So if it's the Malik Neighbors show, somebody else has to catch passes in that offense. You got a little bit of Wan'Dale Robinson, but Theo Johnson could be that next guy.
Yeah, man. I think it's, it's hard not to be in on this guy when, he's in that back end range. When you miss tight ends, he goes like where Zach Ertz goes. Like I would gladly take the younger, possibly booming guy that could offer a high ceiling than somebody like a Zach Ertz that, might be retired next year.
Right.
I mean, they very well could not be playing football next year, depending on how this season goes. So yeah, the value's there. I mean, it's hard not to, but he's definitely one of my guys. And for the price and for where he goes in startups, it's an easy tap for me.
When I'm trying to identify the next breakout tight end, the number one thing I'm looking at is athleticism. And this guy, you pull up his player profiler page, those bars are all off the charts. This guy is an upper echelon athlete.
Yeah, super athletic. And you know what I mean? Like it's these guys that, are hybrid tight ends. Like I think Johnson is a hybrid guy. He reminds me of, an Aaron Hernandez. And I don't like to drop that name, but it is what it is. We're talking about one of the most athletic tight ends to ever play the game. And you see the same build. You see the same, he's a bigger guy, but he plays like a wide receiver, like he doesn't miss on blocks. And then he also, you know what I mean? He has that ability to really go out deep, to play that outside role. So yeah, I mean, give me your last guy, man. Let's go one more guy for you. I hope you save the biggest drop for last, man.
Well, I may have gone off of the spirit of the show a little bit with this one. I didn't go quite as deep, but this is still a guy who I believe has been kind of thrown in the trash bin for a lot of people. Jalen Waddle. All right. Between his terrible 2024 season and how much the general community is down on Tua, his dynasty value is really cratered over the last 12 months. I've seen people just completely give up on him, move off of him for like peanuts, pretty much. Second round picks, late seconds, they're just giving away. Jalen Waddle. He's just 26 years old, though. Early prime years. And we've seen him do it for multiple seasons already. People are just forgetting his first 3 years in the league. Wide receiver 21 as a rookie in fantasy points per game. Wide receiver 12 in 2022. He's wide receiver 15 in 2023. Over those 3 years, he averaged 83 receptions, over 1,100 receiving yards, 15 fantasy points per game. And in 2022, he led all wide receivers in yards per reception, yards per target. According to PFF, his 2.61 yards per route from 2022 and 2023 was third best among wide receivers behind Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson. That's the list. And his 5.8 yards after catch per reception over the last 3 years, second best among wide receivers. So this guy can get it done before the catch, after the catch. He's a big playmaker. He's still got a ton of talent. He can play at a high level. Even last season, he had a 100-yard game in week 1. Then we get, Tua going down with a concussion. He's got probably the worst quarterback play in the league for about 2 months. And then he has his own injury. He got a quad injury in week 7. That he had to deal with that for multiple weeks. But then he kind of had a little bit of an uptick, kind of back to the old Jalen Waddle for a few weeks. He averaged 99 yards per game, racked up 25 targets over a 3-game stretch from weeks 12 to 14. Then he had another injury, ankle injury, cost him 2 games at the end of the year. But according to Fantasy Pros, Jalen Waddle still, despite the terrible year, had a respectable 27th in yards per route, 23rd in receiving yards per game in the games in which he played at least 70% of the snaps, and the team was quarterbacked by Tua. Really, all it takes is Tua to stay healthy, Waddle to stay healthy. We're going to get a bounce back season for Jalen Waddle. We already talked about at the beginning of the show. I promise I'm not a Dolphins fan. I didn't mean to talk about two Dolphins in this show. I didn't realize until we started talking about Jalen Wright, I got two Dolphins here. But we talked about Tyreek Hill in decline. He could be off the team in a matter of time. He might even make it to the season before he's traded. Who knows what's going to happen with that situation? He could quit the team. Who knows? But Jalen Waddle, he can give you those spike weeks. He can give you those boom performances. If Tyreek Hill's gone, we're just not the same guy. Jalen Waddle is going to start seeing heavy volume, like we talked about earlier as well. And he's got the versatility to be, he can be that big play guy, or he can be the high volume guy. He's done both. He had that 1,300 yard, 18 yards per reception, 1,400 air yard season in 2022. But he's also had the high volume, 142 target season, under 10 yards per reception season, where he was just getting fed target after target in the underneath area, which is probably what the more likely scenario for him this season. We talked about them wanting to get the ball out of the hands of Tua very quickly. Jalen Waddle could benefit from that if they're going to use him in the short, intermediate areas of the field. I'm expecting to bounce back one way or another for Jalen Waddle. I think too many people have just thrown him away, given up on him already. I'm not ready to do that. I had to talk about him. I know he's not as deep as the other guys we were looking at, but the disrespect I've seen in some leagues I'm in with Jalen Waddle, I can't get there. I'm buying him pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I'm with that. I think that, it is tough to feel a certain way about the Dolphins just because you're right. A lot of it does ride on Tua. It rides on the health of their quarterback at this point. But yeah, I mean, I think Waddle is absolute value when it comes to the way people view him. It's like he's in that Olave boat, like if they only stayed healthy and they only, could see the fields consistently, then I think that the community wouldn't be so low on them. But it's like, I don't know if that's going to prevent me from wanting these guys on my team, just because you're right. They are electric. They do produce. They have all the skill sets that you want. It's just a matter of availability. And I think that, even then it's really tough at that point. If you're looking at getting Waddle for a mid-second or you know what I mean? Like if he's not worth a first anymore in your leagues, I think he's an easy tap. It's tough for me to equate Waddle's value as a first or Olave for that matter. Yeah. I think a lot of people still want a first for them, but I also don't think that, a lot of people view them worth that. So it's like they're in this funky realm of thinking when it comes to dynasty, especially when it comes to their value. It's like in the middle, like, you would sell for a first, but you wouldn't buy for a first kind of player.
Right. I mean, a year ago, you wouldn't be able to get anything. You're going to get a first for Jalen Waddle a year ago.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
At this point, depending on how things go, if everything aligns perfectly for him this year, a year from now, you're going to get a first for him. So, I mean, there's very little risk if you can trade, like you said, a mid-second for Jalen Waddle. It's you can recoup that second round pick in a year.
Yeah, I mean, I bought Olave for a mid-second and a third. Like these easy, right? Like it's just like it is what it is. Like these are windows that we talk about. These are guys that are so sunken down in value that you can take advantage of these. And even if they don't come out as the assets they were before, you're not taking that much of a loss. Like a random second for Waddle, dude, if he stays the same, he's 26 years old, like he doesn't boost up anymore. That's kind of what you expect from a mid-second at that point anyway.
Yeah.
Like you're not taking a massive loss. There's no sunken fallacy value there. It's like you are essentially just lateral moves. And if they do work out, it's like incredible return, like that is exactly what you want to do in dynasty. You need to take a risk. You need to go after guys because their value is where they are for certain reasons. But, you know, I think guys like Barkley, when they were injured, they were so cheap, dude, you know, and we see windows of booms with the Barkleys and even, you know, Christian McCaffrey at one point in time after his major injuries.
Mhm.
He was cheap as hell too, man. You
Yep.
know, like
I regret not buying them more than I did.
I know. I got Barkley for Ezekiel Elliott straight up when
Oh.
he was injured.
Wow.
Yeah. That was exactly where his value was. They were hand in hand together at that point in time where they were being drafted. And it was kind of like, hey man, maybe this is going to work out for me. Maybe it's not. Obviously it did, but you know, it's kind of in the same boat where you could probably trade Darnell Mooney for like, you could trade Darnell Mooney in a fourth for a while or something. Like you could,
Yeah.
like you could do something like that where, you know, Mooney was essentially free for you. You could just tiered up to get Waddle for guys that were almost viewed as throwaways too in Dynasty.
Yeah, I saw him traded for Cooper Kupp and a third.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. You know, like I sold Waddle actually for Devontae Adams in a second last year. There's no way you could even get Devontae Adams for Waddle right now.
No. Yep.
Like I don't think anybody would want to do that right
Nope.
now. So yeah, I think it's ebbs and flows, man. Right now we're looking at a massive dip for like Waddle and Olave, and it makes them buys. It makes them guys that you have to go get, because if their value is up, there's not a lot that needs to happen for their value to get back up, you know?
Exactly. These aren't 30-year-olds. These are 20, 26, 27-year-olds in their prime guys.
Yeah, they still have a lot of time to actually have, you know, sell windows or just production windows for that matter, if you want to keep them, you know. You don't always have to get guys to sell them at that point. But let's get you out of here, man. Drop everything that you have coming up, all the content you have. Tell everybody where to find you, you know, any new videos or any new tools or anything that is coming out. Plug it all, man. The floor is yours.
Yeah, you can find everything I do at yardsperfantasy.com, articles, rankings. You can find Yards Per Fantasy on YouTube. Dropping at least one video per week now through the rest of the season. I've got a video coming up this upcoming week, couple of days, finding this year's Bucky Irving. So we're going to see what we can do. Last year, I made a video trying to find the next year's Kyron Williams. We identified Chase Brown, and it went pretty well. So hopefully we'll get somebody in this Bucky Irving video as well. Use our projections template. You can make your own projections at yardsperfantasy.com. Nice and easy. We also have a service where we'll do a full-length podcast, YouTube video about your fantasy league. So you can sign up right on the website for that. We'll talk about your league, break down your team, give you some advice, roast you as well, and we don't hold back. So it's pretty fun deal there. Find that at yardsperfantasy.com. Otherwise, on Twitter, @_Johnson. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you jumping on, man. Definitely go follow my boy and follow Yards Per. Go consume their content. I'd love to come on the show, man, and talk a little ball with you over there too.
We'll have you on. We'll make it happen.
Have a symbiotic relationship there and make some content together. But it was a pleasure, man. And like I said, I appreciate you jumping on. I appreciate everybody joining us on a Sunday. Good, decent turnout for a Sunday. I appreciate you guys coming out, man. Maybe this will be my new slot. I don't know if I like the turnaround though, because we get the Devy show tomorrow, the redraft show the next day, and then we got the Dynasty show on Thursday again. Yeah, that would be awful. I don't think I want to go Sundays. Definitely not. But appreciate you guys. We'll catch you tomorrow on the Devy show. Have a good night.